In today's world, where the mere mention of nuclear warfare sends shivers down the spine, the threat of a nuclear apocalypse looms over humanity as an inescapable dark cloud. Archaeologists believe that ancient humans might have experienced nuclear wars. Throughout the 4.6 billion years of Earth's evolution, life on our planet has undergone 5 major extinctions, showcasing a cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Some scientists speculate that during this vast expanse of time, Earth may have been home to several advanced civilizations. Unfortunately, these civilizations ultimately faced extinction. With the passage of millions of years, natural changes have all but erased any traces of these societies, leaving behind only a handful of evidence to hint at the existence of these ancient civilizations. The Indus River, one of the longest rivers in the world, is also one of the cradles of human civilization. Since the 19th century, archaeologists have discovered a series of ancient sites along the Punjab region of the Indus River. These architectural remnants, extending approximately 1,600 kilometers east to west and 1,400 kilometers north to south, belong to a single civilization system. This scale is unique worldwide and is known as the Indus Valley Civilization. Among these, Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, translated as Valley of Death, are the most renowned ancient city ruins. Conservatively estimated, these sites are over 5,000 years old. However, early Indian mythological records do not mention these 2 cities, leading some to speculate that their history might be even more ancient than we currently understand. A large number of skeletons were unearthed here, some in the streets, many more within homes. In one larger ruin, rows of people were found lying dead, some with their hands covering their faces as if to protect themselves or as though they had witnessed some horrifying event. It is certain that all these individuals died suddenly, indicating that a significant catastrophe had occurred in the ancient city. What could it have been? A volcanic eruption. However, within thousands of kilometers of this area, no evidence of volcanic craters that might have erupted suddenly has been found. Could it have been an epidemic or plague? Medical evidence shows that plagues and various epidemics cannot suddenly destroy a city. After conducting a detailed chemical analysis of the unearthed human bones, Indian archaeologist Kaha stated, "I found traces of high-temperature heating in all 9 skeletons, which suggests that the destruction of Mohenjo-Daro and the death of its people were related to a sudden high temperature." The destruction of Mohenjo-Daro bears striking similarities to the biblical destruction of Sodom, both suddenly destroyed by something related to high temperatures. In Mohenjo-Daro, traces of high temperatures on many collapsed buildings were found, including certain glassy materials known as trinitite. This material is formed by the instantaneous melting of the surface of objects due to extreme heat, followed by rapid cooling. To date, such man-made materials have only been found at the sites of nuclear explosions, suggesting that a nuclear explosion might have occurred here. The ancient Indian epic Mahabharata records 2 ancient great wars that occurred in the upper reaches of the Ganges River, with descriptions that are shockingly vivid. Brave warriors launched the Agni weapon, which emitted terrifying heat and fierce winds, causing the earth to shake, rivers to boil, and enemy soldiers to be instantly incinerated like charred tree trunks. Gurkha launched a fireball with the force of the entire universe, producing a column of fire and smoke as bright as 10,000 suns. All living beings were burned, and all food was poisoned. For centuries, these descriptions were thought to be poetic exaggerations by the authors of the world's longest epic. However, after the United States dropped 2 atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, many scholars suddenly realized that the epic's descriptions closely resemble eyewitness accounts of an atomic bomb explosion. Recently, archaeologists have discovered numerous scorched ruins in the upper reaches of the Ganges River, where all the rocks within the ruins are fused together. Physics teaches that neither forest fires nor volcanic eruptions can generate enough heat to completely melt and fuse the surface rocks of Earth. Only a nuclear explosion has that capability. Even more astonishing, many ancient stone artifacts found on these ancient battlefields have been vitrified, mirroring the trinitite glass found at modern nuclear test sites. The former Soviet Union nuclear physicist Egor Bosky once excavated the remains of an ancient Indian in the Upper Ganges region and found that the ancient body still contains radioactive residues 50 times higher than normal. In the Genesis of the Bible, an event is recorded where Lot and his family lived in the city of Sodom. God decided to destroy the city, and before the disaster struck, told Lot's family to leave Sodom quickly and advised them not to look back. Lot's wife did not heed God's advice and looked back at the disaster-struck Sodom, resulting in her death by a blast of light. The next day, when they looked back at the place where they once lived, smoke was seen rising from the land as if from a furnace, marking the destruction of the city. What force could destroy a city overnight? And what was the intense light emitted during the destruction? In today's research, it has been discovered that the Bible is a historical book that has been divinized, with many of its stories having been validated. So should we also believe that the destruction of Sodom is a reflection of actual historical events? The story goes like this. Before the disaster struck, 2 angels arrived in Sodom, where the resident Lot was waiting for them at the city gate. Lot immediately recognized them and warmly invited them to stay overnight at his home. The townspeople wanted to harm them, but with just a slight wave of their hands, these 2 strangers caused the troublemakers to go blind. The 2 angels quickly told Lot to take his wife, children, and family members out of the city. They warned that the city was about to be destroyed. The members of Lot's family did not believe this strange warning, thinking it was a joke, and paid it no attention. As dawn broke, the angels urgently told Lot, "Get up, take your wife, your daughters, and your family members, and leave the city quickly to avoid being destroyed because of its sins." However, Lot hesitated and said to the angels, "I cannot leave." The angels then said, "Fleeing will save your life. Do not look back. Do not stop anywhere in the valley. Flee to the mountains, or you will be swept away." Lot replied, "I cannot make it to the mountains. Disaster is too close, and death is inevitable." Seeing this, the angels had no choice but to take Lot, his wife, and his family by the hand and lead them out of the city to safety. They again warned him, "Hurry to the mountains, do not look back, or you will be swept away." Soon after, smoke rose from the ground as sulfur and fire rained down from heaven onto Sodom. The inhabitants of the city and all living things in the area were not spared from the catastrophe. What truly happened to the city of Sodom remains a series of mysteries we can hardly fathom. The Almighty God, too, seems constrained by a timeline. Otherwise, why would his angels be in such a hurry? Could it be that some countdown technology had already commenced? Was there a specific command set to destroy the city at that precise moment of which the angels were aware? If so, the moment of destruction must have been imminent. Did the angels not have a simpler way to ensure the safety of Lot and his family? Why did they insist on them fleeing to the mountains? And why were they strictly instructed not to look back? Not only the Bible, but ancient Indian texts are also shrouded in mystery. More than 3,000 years ago, ancient Indian epics allowed modern humans to witness grand-scale wars. Previously, people always thought the descriptions in these poems were poetic exaggerations. The Mahabharata, a great Sanskrit epic of India, compiles many long narrative poems discussing history and mythology with much precise information, making it seem like the author wrote these narratives based on first-hand information. The author describes, with a tone of revulsion, a divine weapon that could kill all warriors wearing gold armor and helmets instantly. If the warriors knew the power of this weapon in time, they could discard all their metallic gear and jump into a river to wash off everything they touched thoroughly. The author explains that this measure is reasonable because the weapon could cause hair and nails to fall out. He laments that all creatures would become frail and withered upon contact with this weapon. In the same volume, it mentions that the Kuru family dropped a bomb from an incredibly powerful Vimana onto the triangular city. The words used in the text are akin to a live report from the scene of the first hydrogen bomb explosion. The brightness of the searing smoke was 1,000 times stronger than the sun, rising into the air and bursting forth with an incredibly dazzling light, turning the city into ashes. Its power was so great that it could strangle a fetus in its mother's womb. The translation of the passage below describes how natural forces seem to have lost their restraint. The sun spun around. The earth was scorched by the heat emitted from the weapon, trembling in the high heat. Elephants screamed in terror, trying desperately to escape this terrible violence. Water boiled, hundreds of animals died, and enemies were annihilated. Furious flames caused trees to fall in rows like a forest fire. Elephants screamed in agony and died. Corpses were strewn everywhere. War horses and chariots were completely burned, presenting a scene of devastation after a great fire. Thousands of chariots destroyed. The sea was dead silent. The wind began to blow. The earth glowed red. Thinking of it really presents a shocking image. Corpses on the ground burned beyond recognition by that terrible heat, disfigured, barely human. We have never heard of such a weapon. These weapons appear like giant iron swords, making one feel as if they were the mighty messengers sent by the god of death. The protagonist in the story ordered the remaining unused iron swords to be smashed into pieces and then thrown into the sea. The Mahabharata also records a very terrifying weapon, possibly an atomic bomb. The scene of its explosion, from the perspective of people in the atomic age, might not seem too exaggerated. The book describes it as follows. There was no smoke, and the flashing bomb was launched like a ball of fire. A fog-like substance suddenly enveloped the army, and the entire horizon disappeared into darkness. An unfortunate whirlwind arose, and a cloud-like thing roared, ascending into the sky with a massive noise, making it feel as if even the sun no longer existed. The heat of this weapon made both the earth and sky hot, and elephants scorched by the flames ran in terror. It then describes how thousands of chariots, men, and elephants were instantly burned to ashes due to the explosion of this terrible weapon, and all the surviving soldiers hurriedly ran to the nearby river to wash their clothes and weapons. In India, this weapon is called the Weapon of Brahma, or the Fire of Indra in South America. It is called Mathwamalai in Celtic mythology. It is referred to as the Thunderbolt, and it is named differently based on the number of people it can kill. A bomb that can kill 100 people is called a 100-man bomb, and one that can kill 1,000 people is called a 1,000-man bomb. In Anatolia, when excavating the ancient Hittite capital of Hattusa, archaeologists determined that the entire city was destroyed by an inexplicably high temperature. According to the archaeologist Biddle, no ordinary fire, regardless of how much flammable material was stored in the city, could have produced such high temperatures. The stones were burned into fragments, and not a single house or temple wall in the city bore traces of this terrifying heat. In the area where ancient Babylon once stood, the ruins of a tower still reaching 46 meters in height can be found, known as the Tower of Babel as recorded in ancient texts. To this day, it remains a mystery how this colossal tower was destroyed, but evidence of artificially induced high temperatures has been found on it. A researcher wrote that not only hundreds of bricks were heated red, but also melted, including the entire framework they were part of and the mud walls which were scorched. The source of such high temperatures is inexplicable. In 1928, two German miners discovered a smooth black glass hill in Brazil, leading scientists to believe that only the explosion of a thermonuclear weapon could produce such high temperatures instantaneously on Earth. In Africa, a 2-billion-year-old nuclear reactor was discovered. In 1972, a uranium mine in Oklo, Gabon Republic, Africa, revealed an incredible prehistoric relic, an ancient nuclear reactor. Composed of about 500 tons of uranium ore across 6 regions, it operated for approximately 500,000 years. Faced with this well-preserved and logically structured nuclear reactor, questions arise. Who left this reactor behind? What was the purpose of this nuclear reactor? Could the discovery of the reactor prove the existence of nuclear weapons at that time? It's known that humans mastered nuclear technology and built slow neutron reactors in the 1940s. Could it be that humans or some form of civilization existed on Earth 2 billion years ago? Whether prehistoric civilizations experienced nuclear wars, whether nuclear wars destroyed these civilizations, and whether modern humans are a new species that evolved from the extinction of ancient humans remains an unsolved mystery. Perhaps one day in the future, all these mysteries will be unveiled.